All right, everyone, now it comes to it. The debt deal in principle has been agreed to between Kevin McCarthy and Joe Biden. Basically, it's Biden's plan with a tiny amount trimmed from it. We're talking about a pittance. This is the pittance bill, more like the pitiful bill. By the way, I would point out something interesting, which is that Donald Trump warned you this was likely to happen last week and said the Republicans shouldn't negotiate at all and should just ram their own shit through and let the Democrats sit in the mess until they come to their senses. You could do that, but Kevin McCarthy doesn't appear to have the balls to do so. So while at least an attempt was made, in the end it wasn't really much of an attempt. Assuming that it maintains this particular form, it's 99% Biden's bill. What does it do? Well, it accomplishes a couple of things. It maintains the student loan debt scheme, which is still embattled in courts. Apparently, Kevin McCarthy doesn't care about the rule of law because despite the fact that it's been injuncted so far legally and is definitely hazarded and probably in the end won't even be found legal, he didn't consider that to be a priority despite the massive price tag. The IRS expansion will go through. It'll be slightly trimmed for at least 1 year, though, so there's that. You get a 20% reduction on the first year of that growth. You've clawed back $1.9 billion of discretionary COVID spending. Well, that's good. $1.9 billion will keep the federal government going for, I think, 2 days, roughly. See, the problem is that you're basically kicking the can down the road on the other $78 billion that's included in that total, which is actually a meaningful sum when you're talking about a budget as bloated as the U.S. government's. That has to be negotiated separately. See, what you've done is you've kicked the can down the road for the debt limit for a couple of years till after the election, and then you're hoping that you have more Republicans in Congress so then you can slam things shut. That is not a practical solution to this situation. Basically, the only main concession, if only one major concession was made, I had hoped it would be, hey, no more IRS expansion. It's not necessary. Screw it. Look for ways to cut some corners at the IRS and call it a day. We should be cutting most of the bureaus, not massively expanding them like this bill does, by the way. Instead, what did Kevin McCarthy decide was the most important thing on especially GOP voters' minds in the Bidenomic budgetary bloat? Trillions and trillions of extra dollars of spending that we don't need. Well, you got a budgetary cap for 1 single year, after which it immediately begins rising. It does nothing after 2 years to alleviate any pressure on that. So that's 1 year's worth of restraining the total budget as far as non-military spending. Okay, well, you've accomplished something, but was that really the biggest thing on people's minds? No, I don't think so. Oh, he got one other thing. This is a real humdinger. Raising the age for SNAP benefits work testing. So right now, if you're between the ages of 18 and 49, when you apply for food stamps, you can only get them for a short period. You have to show that you're at least seeking work. Normally, after 49, that doesn't apply. The idea is that if someone needs food stamps and they're 50 or something, there's not a whole lot of upward mobility left to the average person, and so we take a little pressure off them. Now we're raising that to 54, so people, in their early 50s as well will have that means test. Now again, how many Republican voters, how many independent voters, hell, how many voters in general even knew about that particular concept because it was being discussed? Mostly it's about the IRS expansion, the COVID funds, both of which he's punted on here, and student loan debt, because it's such a huge price tag potentially if it does go through the courts. Those are the main issues as far as the budget went, and the fact of its size. This barely trims anything out of that budget. It caps certain aspects of spending for 1 goddamn year. So naturally, every principled conservative in the GOP right now is pledging that they won't support it in the current form. However, there are probably enough neocons in the House that don't have to worry about their re-election bid to throw the entirety of the United States under the bus, ensuring trillions in spending that we do not need over the next 10 years. And that is what will happen. I want Republican voters to understand what McCarthy is doing. He has to pass a debt deal of some sort. Otherwise, there's default, and then Biden will blame Republicans for the inevitable recession that's coming regardless. The Republicans see that as a threat. But instead of beginning to formulate a plan early on, the Republicans waited and bitched about it. Instead of coming to the table and negotiating because it's such a big fucking deal, as Biden would say, Biden for a couple months simply said he refused to negotiate. They were both trying to outlast the other. So they wait until the last minute, then they immediately start having 24-hour sessions with their staff and nighttime meetings over probably $100 glasses of wine from Martha's Vineyard or something like that. Elizabeth Warren's private reserve, and look for ways to screw the American people. The bill in its current form is indefensible. It should not be passed. If that means a default, then so be it. The Republicans, in my opinion, should simply stand on that principle, because otherwise you're going to get punished by your voters. A lot of Republicans won't vote for it. In the end, it might just be a half a dozen Republicans in the House were dumb enough to actually go with a bill proving that they're liberals, basically. There are a handful of Republicans that represent districts in which they can pull that off and get reelected, by the way. This isn't a deal. These weren't negotiations. Kevin McCarthy went in there with a 50-50 power play because the House controls the purse strings and the Republicans control the House with Biden. He could have done what Trump would do, which is make a much bigger ask and then whittle it down from there. You could have at least blocked the IRS expansion and gotten Biden to ease off student loans or something like that. You could have gotten, how many Americans support increasing the size of the IRS, despite all the legacy media propaganda saying, oh, don't worry, this is just to go after rich tax cheats and it'll pay for itself multiple times over. I have seen nobody actually defending it. And I haven't seen a liberal defending the concept of expanding the IRS. I see a handful of leftoids maybe think the idea is funny because they know it'll be weaponized politically. Other than that, I don't see anyone saying, yeah, you know what we need in the United States? More audits. We need more power of taxation. That's what our founders agreed with, and it's an American tradition. Well, in the postmodern era it kind of is. But, Jesus Christ, McCarthy could have scored several easy wins here, and he gets one small portion of one win. That's literally it, and that's the one-year cap on additional spending growth outside of military spending. Whoop-de-doo. The budget is for more than 1 year. You're raising the debt ceiling to 2. Then you'll have to renegotiate it then, and you have no guarantee, by the way, that after the subsequent election, the Republicans have jack shit in forms of negotiating capabilities. So in the current scheme, again, Trump warned you. Don't put your faith in Kevin McCarthy to get this deal done. They should just let it for the bottom drop out and really pressure Biden. Trump was right yet again. Boy, I wish he were in office right now. I don't think that he would sign off on the bill. I think that he would say, no, it's vetoed. That's about all. Peace out.